Welcome to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast, where we talk all things Panther City Lacrosse Club. Now here are your hosts, Nicholas and Andy.
Well, with another doubleheader weekend, Panther City looked to inch closer to solidifying their playoff spot and taking on both San Diego and Philadelphia in the same weekend. Welcome everyone to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast. I'm Nicholas, joined by Andy.
Hello.
Andy, coming into last weekend, Panther City was, in the playoff picture, but still hanging on, still haven't, they don't have a playoff spot set. But with both games last weekend, if they won both of those, that could solidify them a little bit more. It is kind of hard, though, having a doubleheader weekend where you're away one game and then back home the next.
Yeah, that travel time, going from California to Texas isn't quite going from like Texas to Canada, but it's still kind of a lengthy bit of a trip. And the way the standings are right now, things are so packed from those spots 5 to 8 pretty much, or 5 to 10. So people are really jockeying for position.
Right. And one thing we were kind of hoping for is we haven't had best luck against San Diego, but we've played decent games against them. And so coming into San Diego that Friday, I was kind of hoping, if nothing else, if we can pull away from with the win, great. But I just wanted to see a good game from our team.
Yeah. San Diego, they've seemed to have our number over the past couple of seasons. We did get one win against them during the first year that Panther City existed, but last year games weren't too pretty, and then this year we were leading them for most of the game at home until I think it was kind of triggered, not to scapegoat any single player, but with that double major penalty, I don't even remember what it was called. That kind of spurred San Diego to go on a run before they won in overtime on the Stotts goal. So really want to have a good showing, not just in general, but specifically against this team who could be a potential first-round matchup.
Yeah, for sure. Well, coming into this game, a couple pregame notes, and just to let everybody know, we are going to go through both games on this, kind of a quicker review for each game like we did before. But a couple pregame notes. Right before game time, pretty much, like almost an hour before game time, they came out and said they signed 4-time NLL champion defenseman John Lintz, who last played with Colorado.
Yeah, great veteran addition to the club. I don't believe he played last year, but obviously Colorado, they won the championship with him, and he's won 3 more on top of that. So it was good to have some veteran leader along with Haas and the rest of the guys to add to the rotation, someone who knows how to win playoff games especially.
Well, and I think that's somebody they were probably needing on the defense just because it seems like injuries have been kind of plaguing them on the defensive side. On top of that, starting for this game for the first time, Elijah Gash playing for defense. I think he had played earlier this season, but this is another chance for him to get some minutes on the field.
Yeah, you always want to give your young guys some run when they can get it, especially if guys are beat up. I know Foley's been nursing some injuries recently, so good to get some younger guys out there. One correction: John Lintz did play last year, only 12 games though in the rematch finals season for Colorado. So gotcha. Good mix of signing the veteran, even though he didn't play in that San Diego game, and then getting Gash some more time because he's been chomping at the bit to play.
Well, the game started off, and a common thread that we're going to talk about, especially in the first half and even after halftime, face-offs. We did not do very, very well this game at face-offs at all, but it didn't matter right off the bat. Not right off the bat, but a few minutes in, Crawford actually, it was the one that got started for us, put us up 1-0. Really good shot from him.
Yeah, and it was nice to see that. Even though he has had some shining moments as of late, he hasn't really put together what you'd expect a Showtime kind of game to be. Granted, maybe he spoiled us a little bit with that Las Vegas showing however many weeks ago, but it's nice to see him get on the board early.
Yeah, and kind of getting in that groove early on, but, he put us up 1-0. I will say, though, the defense for the most part, was looking pretty solid. We get another goal from Thompson, put us up 2-0, but halfway through the first, up 2-0 against San Diego in San Diego. And we were kind of forcing some turnovers, some sloppy passes from them. I mean, honestly, that's what you can ask for from the defense for that first quarter.
Yeah, really good start to things. You kind of alluded to our trouble with in the face-off dot, and Trevor Baptiste is one of the best face-off guys in the league. Gave us issues when he was with Philly too, but we were able to kind of neutralize the effect that he had early on by playing solid defense, and then Damian getting stops early. So it was a real nice start to see on the road.
Yeah, and Damoud, had some really good solid stops early on, but eventually San Diego kind of got their things going. You mentioned him already, Stotts. I mean, he's eventually going to find the net, and he finally gets a goal for San Diego, puts them 2-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something about him. He tends to play really well against us, and I don't know. You look at him and his body type. He's kind of like short and stocky with combined with the way that he plays.
He doesn't look like the fastest player on the field at all.
Yeah, but he's just really. I guess he's got great lacrosse IQ and a feel for the game in terms of being able to get to spots, how to maneuver his figure around, and just he's certainly done well against us these past few years.
Yeah, well, and it's just, I mean, you hate when players are just that good against us, and he's one of them that is just that good against us. But right before the end of the first, I thought we were going to go into the second quarter with the lead, but crazy goal from San Diego. I mean, honestly, a really good goal from them. Tied us up 2-2. All things considered, low scoring, but I mean, really good showing from both offense and defense on our side, all things considered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty good overall. That one goal you mentioned that Patrick Shumay scored, that was kind of, you don't want to let the opposing team's defensemen ever get on the board, but I mean, hats off to them. It was a good play, and at least they didn't take the lead with that.
Right. Well, and then so going into the second, I mean, it was just it was almost like both teams kind of hit their stride early on, because the second, it was very back and forth. I mean, Stotts gets a goal, and then we answer right back. Caputo gets a great goal, and then Berg, who of course is their, another one of their big players on their side, gets a goal, and then we strike back with Crawford. I mean, at the very least, we're, keeping score to score. We're not letting them kind of pull ahead early on in the second, because, I mean, I've seen that happen in the past with a lot of our games where maybe we're not able to keep stride for stride with them, and those teams tend to pull away. But, I mean, 2 goals by them, 2 goals by us. Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'd say this was the first game I've seen where Panther City kind of matched San Diego shot for shot. Obviously, in the first game of the season, we got a big early lead, so didn't really see that back and forth play too much until late. And then last year, I think San Diego had solid, comfortable leads in both those. So it was nice to see that against, the 3, probably, God, I don't know, 5-headed. They've got so many
right.
weapons, Stotts, Berg, Doby, all those guys. It's nice to see our offense be able to generate points against them.
I mean, you could pretty much line up their entire starters as like a decent all-star team, but yeah, I mean, we were staying with them, but eventually San Diego did put together a run. They got 2 goals in a row, put them up 6-4. And, I mean, at that point, you're like, okay, well, it's just 2 goals. Let's try not to let it get too far away. But I mean, we've seen this happen with Panther City in the past, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never want to get in a hole early, especially before the half. And around that time, I know, they hadn't scored a whole lot, but was that when there was a goalie change made?
Yeah. So after 6-4, for some reason, Coach TK pulled Damoud, put out McLeod, which, I mean, we've talked about every time this happens. Like, sometimes you get good results from that, and sometimes you don't. I mean, there was only 2 minutes left before halftime. I just felt like, again, it was really early because there was only a 2-point difference.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he wanted to give him a blow before having him start the second half again. Maybe he wanted him to kind of like clear out his head and get his mind right and refocus. I mean, one could say, well, San Diego didn't score again in the half, so from that perspective, I suppose it worked. But it was kind of interesting to see Damian get pulled in that way, and then McLeod, he only had one opportunity to make a save, and he made it. So I guess he's
right.
went 100% this game.
I mean, yeah, McLeod, as we talked about before, he seems to show up when you need him most of the time. I mean, there have been a few of his games where maybe it didn't go his way, but overall, he is probably the best solid backup you can ask for. But yeah, going into halftime, I was like, okay, 6-4, 2-goal difference. That's something I can live with. Caputo thought otherwise. They had to review this. It was amazing shot.
Mm-hmm.
He shoots it with under a second left. And that just goes to show you how fast that ball is traveling, because it hit 1 second and it was in the goal with like 0.5 milliseconds left. Like there's still 0.5 seconds left on the board when it went in. And it's just like he finds a way to make these goals work. And so Caputo, 6-5 right before halftime. Amazing goal by him.
Yeah, and it's classic Caputo. I don't remember who shot it, whether it was Malcolm or someone else from up top, and just right place at the right time. We say that all the time with Caputo, but with it happening as much as it does, you're like, okay, this can't be luck. This guy actually knows how to find. He has a nose for the ball when he's right close to the goal, and for him to scoop it up, have the wherewithal and the mindset to be able to know that, okay, there's barely any time left in the half. So just doing a quick spin move to get it past Origlieri, yeah, it was something that was sorely needed.
Well, yeah, and like it's just he just knows how to make those shots work. Like I said, great showing from him. Obviously, getting that shot off, but going into halftime, 6-5. I mean, my thoughts of the first half was, hey, it's 6-5, and we ended on a high note, which kind of works in our favor because, here's San Diego going into halftime thinking they'd be up by 2, and then they let a last-second goal. So I kind of felt good. I hoped we could keep it going. I mean, do you have any thoughts on the first half?
It started well. A team like San Diego, you expect that they're going to be able to put points on the board. One thing that was kind of a recurring theme throughout the night, and I don't know, maybe it contributed to Damian getting pulled. San Diego tends to talk a lot of trash. Stotts in particular, and I don't know whether there's still sort of a mindset, and this is going into this game. They had maybe a 3 or 4 game win streak against us over the past few seasons, and so just trying to get that monkey off your back of like you're essentially San Diego's like Panther City's big brother. And so trying to kind of be able to turn that corner against them. I thought the first half did it wasn't perfect, but it was a solid showing for what we were trying to get to, especially on the road. I don't think we really touched upon Patrick Foley, one of the leaders of the defense, being out. He definitely would have helped us had he been in there. It was a relatively penalty-free first half, though, so that was one good thing that we had going on, because, God, that's killed us so many games in the past, including against San Diego.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because it always seems when that happens, like those quarters go back fast. I mean, it's just like score, TV timeout, and then it's like, hey, back and forth, score, and then next thing you know, it's almost the quarter's over.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, less penalties is obviously a good thing. But yeah, coming out of halftime, we started. Now, this is why I mentioned it. So, Panther City in the first half went, anybody want to take a guess? 0 for 12 on faceoffs. 0.
Yep.
And so they start the third quarter. Guess what? They lost that one. I'm just sitting there like, look, I understand we have our problems with it, but 13 straight, like from beginning of the game till then, I don't know what to do at this point.
Yeah, it's tough because, Burton missed a good chunk of the year with an injury, and he came back, and he is more or less what you'd go along with, Puce, who's a lot younger. Burton's our face-off specialist. However, he's still going to have trouble against the Jake Withers and Trevor Baptiste and a lot of these upper echelon face-off guys in the league. And I really hate that. I really hate that San Diego ended up with them. Yep.
Well, not only that, but we're going to touch on him coming up in the fourth because something happens with him. But honestly, the third quarter doesn't seem like a whole lot's happening right off the bat. But Berg gets a score, puts them back up 7-5. But we're able to answer right back, and that was something that I was glad to see because so many times have we gotten down and we just let that team keep rolling, and especially in the second or third quarter. And this is something I wanted to see them do in the third quarter. I wanted them to kind of get the momentum back on their side, and they did. I mean, Sheridan gets a great goal, as he always does. He's pushing through defenders,
Yeah.
And then Crawford. I mean, the man has no. He must have found like the elixir of life or something. Before playing this season, because I mean he looks about as good as you could as anybody out there, to be honest. But goals from Sheridan and Crawford, I mean, put us back up 7-7. I'm like, hey, we have a chance.
Yeah, and speaking to what you kind of alluded to about rising to the occasion and kind of throwing guys around, that's one thing I really like about Sheridan, especially against these veteran-laden teams that kind of try to bully us. Yeah, Sheridan's a rookie, but he's not a guy that you can bully. We've seen so many times, it seems like once every game that he's in there, there's got to be, he's usually playing 1-on-3 or 1-on-4 for Lucy's, and he's not giving up on the play. And then Crawford scoring on the power play, I think he's, a bit of foreshadowing. He's certainly one of the franchise leaders in power play goals, and just that one was kind of extra sweet because it was due to a double minor on Austin Stotts. So loved seeing us take advantage of that.
Anytime we can get Stotts off the floor, I'm fine with it.
Yep.
but during that third quarter, I mean, I also put down there, Damoud was back on the field. And yeah, I think he just needed like a time to step away for a minute and just kind of regroup. I mean, he was playing really good. Only let up one goal in the third quarter. Got a ton of good block shots. So sometimes those, pulling him for a little bit does work out.
Yeah, it was nice to see him kind of take that halftime reset and get back out there and play as well as he did, because we ended up tying it up.
Well, and going into the fourth, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, my gosh, another game. We're going into the fourth quarter, either tied or, up by one or down by one. There's like no space, there's no gap between us and them, which it was either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on whether we were up or not. But going into the fourth, I was like, okay, let's close this out. Unfortunately, as I just mentioned with the face-offs, Trevor Baptiste, man, he got that face-off and took it single-handedly, took one-on-one with Damoud, and got a goal 10 seconds in, put them up. I was just like, man, come on.
Yeah, and that really shows the danger of playing against an elite face-off guy, especially one that's got the ball handling and the moxie to be able to score right off of the face-off. I mean, it took, 10 seconds off the clock?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just, in the big scheme of things, I think Coach TK even mentioned in his interview with NLL.com recently, when they asked about it, he said, yeah, face-offs are important, but it's not the end-all be-all. In games like this that are pretty close, having a top-tier face-off specialist does make a big difference when there's a tie or a one-goal deficit or whatnot. And so,
because every possession matters. And right. So if you're just giving them, I mean, again, if you go 0 for 13 to start the game, you're giving them extra chances to score where you can't do anything.
Yeah. You're asking your goalie to play elite defense and make saves that much more. If you're, let's say a game has 26 goals in all, if you lose 25 of them or something, then your defense and your poor goalie is going to be in for a long night.
Right. Well, and yeah, that's the kind of support we've been talking about that needs to be around Damoud. I mean, he's obviously he's playing really good this year, but he needs that defense to help him out. A lot of times, a lot of those one-on-one goals, I mean, some of those players, they just know how to work a goalie, to be honest. I mean, they know how to fake and how to get around them to the point where they can score easily. And, I'm not saying it was an easy score, but it's just that much harder when it's one-on-one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hats off to Trevor Baptiste. Damien started out the second half good, and all things considered, played pretty solid throughout. But yeah, that was a tough one to see. Like, gosh.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just 10 seconds, and it's like, great. Now we're going to start off the fourth with that. But Goodwin answers back. And honestly, there's a lot of action going on in the fourth. Goodwin answers back, so that was good. But Wardle from San Diego gets a goal, but Knox gets a goal back. And so, we're, again, it's that what I talked about back in the second, where we were kind of trading goals with them and keeping even with them, which we haven't seen a whole lot of in the fourth. I mean, we do see it in those tie games where we go into overtime a lot, where we're able to kind of put things together towards the end. But again, something like that early on in the fourth, I definitely need to see. And a little bit telling about Knox. I mean, he's had a pretty decent year this year. So getting him involved in the fourth, that's always important.
Yeah, and I know they're trying different things with him in the power play so far, and it paid dividends in both the San Diego and the Philly game that we're going to talk about next. So good to see him on there. It was great to see them matching goal for goal, and even, instead of alternating, eventually it got to a point where we scored 2 in a row, and that actually gave us a lead off a Will Malcolm score.
Well, and Will Malcolm, again, kind of a very quiet night from him. He had tried some shots early on, nothing really connected. I think he had a few assists, but nothing really scoring from him until towards the end. And so getting that goal, 7 minutes left, we're up 10-9. I put this in my notes. Can we close it out? Unfortunately, the thing that keeps biting us in the side and keeps kind of, I don't know what the right word is. Just
our Achilles heel.
Yeah, our Achilles heel is penalties. And Gash, I mean, you hate to talk about the rookie, but he gets a penalty, leads to a Stotts goal. I mean, and then, so we're tied 10-10, and I'm like, okay, if anything else, let's try to at least push for overtime. Our favorite penalty player in the entire world showed up, and it's funny because you laugh, but and I laugh too, because at this point it's like, how many games in the fourth quarter is this guy going to have a penalty?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Mitchell gets a penalty, leads to a Berg goal. It puts them up 11-10, and I don't know what happened, but that just let all the wind out of our sails. It just kind of, I don't want to say killed the team, but man, it was hard for them to get back in any rhythm after that.
Yeah, the wheels certainly fell off, and I don't even remember if we were going empty net in the last 2 minutes every single time. Maybe one or two of the possessions, but
one of them for sure. But no, I mean after that Berg goal, it's almost like the defense kind of shut down. And I hate to say that, but it just felt like all the energy that the defense had in the first and second, and even the third quarter, was just gone.
Yeah, and I've got to say that was really disappointing to see, knowing that our team has the ability and has proven that they can score a lot of points in a hurry. Like, I don't remember who the opponent was, where I feel like with 2 minutes left, he scored maybe 4 times in that time period, plus won the game in OT. So that was not the case this game. Instead, San Diego kind of did that, and they already had the lead, so just made the score look less and less respectable.
Well, and so they go on 3 straight goals. I mean, I know one of them was probably, I think, an empty net, but in the last 2 minutes, we just gave up three goals, and by that time, it was kind of game over, and it was just another game that I felt like we could have had. that we just let go. So, final loss of 14-10. I mean, we'll talk about our final thoughts here in a little bit, but man, the game, it just felt like it was right there in our hands.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I don't remember the last time I predicted a loss. I obviously predicted a win for this one. People might kind of laugh. It's like, well, Andy, you always predict wins. Well, this one, I really did feel like we had a chance, especially after Will Malcolm put us ahead late. And, hats off to San Diego. But, yeah, it stung on so many levels. Really would have loved to have seen us shut Austin's thoughts up. Would have loved to see the team, finally beat them, get a quality road win against one of the best teams in the league.
That's what I mean. Like, yeah, a lot of our road wins this year, I didn't even think about that. It's just like we haven't beat a playoff caliber team on the road at all this year. So, not that we've played a lot of them, but man, it stings. Well, we'll talk about our final thoughts here in a minute, but of course that leads us straight into Mr. Andrew's stats of the game. I will say a quick stats of the game. So, but Mr. Andrew, what stats do you have for this game?
Well, one of the first things that jumped out on me, Nick Damudes as well as Chris Origlieri, they're two of the great young goalies in this league. They both had nights that were probably below their standards. Damudes saved 40 out of 54 shots for only a 74% save percentage. A lot of that did come within, not garbage time, but within those last few minutes of the game. So it's like, okay, that probably skewed things a little bit. Origlieri, he was also under 80%. He saved 35 out of 45 for 77.8. So that's well below what you'd expect for him too. He did have one amazing save on Crawford near the net, and I think had Crawford scored that time, it would have either tied things back up at like 11-all, or it would have given Panther City the lead. So even though he didn't have the best of games, he did have that really good save that kind of turned the tide. We brought it up. We probably sound like a broken record, but face-offs, good Lord, we went 2 of 27. Trevor Baptiste had, I don't know if Tyler Burton took all the face-offs. They might have switched it up with Patton and others every now and then, but he got us 25 out of 27 times. So, guy, you knew that San Diego was already a good team, and then when they got this guy, it was kind of like, man, I kind of wish he had stayed in Philly and whatnot.
Right?
Be their
well, no. We don't wish he stayed in Philly, but
that's true.
So somewhere else.
Yeah, not during this weekend at least. So, that's still, we just kind of have, it's pretty late in the season at this point, and elite face-off guys don't grow on trees, so, we just kind of have to do what we can and live with the results, and, Burton's solid in there. Trevor Baptiste matchup is going to be tough for anyone. Beyond that, the game was relatively low on penalties. The penalties that there were did kind of come back to haunt us. Like for the 2 fourth quarter penalties on Gash and Mitchell, those were essentially that led to the Stotts power play that tied the game and the Berg power play that gave them the lead for good. So, yeah, it's good that we kept them lower. It still got to be smarter overall in terms of not making those mistakes at the worst times. And, on our side, we still don't, and certainly in this game, our power play still was a bit out of sorts. Out of 5 opportunities, we only got 2 goals out of them. This is a far cry from the first half of the season where it seemed like we were leading the league in power play goals. And San Diego, they went 3 of 4, so they took advantage 75% of the time. So, things weren't too pretty statistically for us in this game.
Yeah, and it just, when you take a look at certain numbers, you're just like, well, of course they won. Like there's just certain things that just kind of add together. But well, of course, that's Mr. Andrew's stats for this game. Kind of leads us into our cool cat plays of the game. I was, even in loss, there's still great plays. I was originally going to go with the Crawford play that put us up 1-0, just because, I mean, again, at his age, he's just, the effort he gives and the way he makes things just look so easy sometimes. But while I was thinking about it, I was like, man, I gotta give props or just hats off to Caputo. I mean, to have the wherewithal to know that time is running out, gather the ball, and then shoot it back with under a second left. Yeah, that's got to be the play of the game. So yeah, that is my cool cat play of the game. What about for you?
There were a few that I remember distinctly. Sheridan's goals, like seeing him score. Goodwin, it's not nice to see the transition guys get in on the action now and then. And Tony Malcolm didn't play this game. Medi did play, but wasn't able to find the net. So it's nice to see Goodwin get on the board. I, too, have to go with that Caputo score right before halftime, because even though it didn't give us the lead, it helped cut into the deficit and half it. So, again, for him to have the wherewithal and the skill to know that time's running out, he's right there where the goal is, and sneak it past Riglieri, who is a very good goalie. Mm-hmm. Just all those elements combined, I'd give him the play of the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's just he finds a way to make it work, and Caputo, I don't know if it's the power of the mustache or what it is, but he's a great player in that sense. But that of course is our cool cat plays of the game. Leads us into our big cat players of the game. Again, in a loss, it's always hard to find, the silver lining and find, hey, who's somebody who kind of showed up and showed out. This is a hard one because, like, Damu was able to come back, but unfortunately, the defense really didn't help him towards the end. Malcolm didn't really show up till towards the end either. Out of all the people, I would say probably the most consistent person would be Crawford. I mean, do you have the stats up there to show how many points he had that game?
So Crawford had 3 goals and 3 assists for 6 points overall on 10 shots on goal, and then he added 5 loosies and a caused turnover as well. So yeah, pretty solid game from Showtime.
So I mean, that's what I mean. He's a solid player, and he consistently shows up when he plays, and it's hard to find. I mean, there's only one game I can think of this year where he got shut out, and that was against Rochester. But he seems to always put things together and just works with it. I mean, he's just a great player, and I'm glad. Obviously, I'm glad he plays for us. But I would say if there's anybody from the game against San Diego, it would be him. He's my big cat player of the game. Anybody for you?
Crawford would definitely be up there. I think I might lean a little more towards Caputo in this one, because everything he brought to the table was relatively positive. Showtime, as good as he was, he did have 5 turnovers, and against a team like San Diego, you want to protect the ball. Granted, he's handling the ball a lot more than Caputo is too, so there is that. But Caputo, he had 2 points, basically 2 goals, including that play of the game that we just discussed. 8 loosies on top of that, so he led the team in that, and then added a block for good measure, probably on some defensive rotation that he ended up getting stuck on, so they could prevent the transition play. So, it was a tough game overall, but I'd say Caputo was one of the bright spots.
Yeah, and I think he's a bright. Honestly, I think he's been a bright spot every game as well. But well, of course, that's our big cat players of the game. I mean, quick final thoughts here. As I said before, I think this was a game we could have won, and probably should have won. But of course, penalties kind of bit us in the end, and just unfortunately, just like less than acceptable defense at the end of the game led to them going up more than they should have. But I'll say this: if there is one bright spot you can talk about, is I think there's been a lot of talk about they might be our first round opponent if we make it in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that almost work in our favor? because it's the same thing with, I mean, anything in sports. Okay, so again, I'm a Houston fan. They went against Cleveland in the season, and Cleveland beat the snot out of them, for lack of better words. And then it came playoffs, and Cleveland's game plan didn't change, but Houston's did. And they were able to change things, and they were able to adapt, and they were able to take advantage of things just because they knew the tendency that Cleveland was going to do. So if we go against them in the playoffs, we faced them twice this year. Both games were close. And so it makes me think like, hey, if we did go against them, maybe, just maybe, we have a chance against them. So I don't know. That's high hopes, but I don't know. That's what I'm hoping for.
I think we'd do at least as well as we did against Calgary in our quarterfinal game that year, where we kept it close throughout, had the lead early on. And this was all without Coach TK as well. If there's anything Coach TK and the rest of the staff is good at doing, it's making adjustments. We've seen plenty of San Diego over the past few years, it seems. They're a team that you got to think the law of averages has got to work in our favor at some point. As far as the game overall, it was nice to see Showtime back in action. He had a relatively quiet game against Buffalo in the overtime win. He did tie the game up, which was big, but it was nice to see him find the back of the net a bit more in this one. I think we have I've probably brought this up on previous episodes. I think we have a lot more size this year with Knox and Sheridan and guys that are able to combat bigger guys like Stotts that San Diego has and whatnot. I mean, they both play on offense, but overall, I think our physicality matches up better with their defensemen than it has in years past. So it's just a matter of putting everything together. If this game was, let's see, it's a 60-minute lacrosse game. If this game was, let's see if my math is correct. If it was like 7 or 8 minutes shorter, we would have won.
Right.
So I'm kind of like finding silver linings in that sense. This is not just this game, but the last game too. This is the best that we've played against them since I've been watching the team in terms of being able to keep games close and competitive throughout. That's not to say you should discount the ending to it, but
right.
We were able to hang with them. I think they're still number 2 in the league, right under Toronto. It's disappointing that it was a loss and it took us back under 500. We obviously wanted to win both games this weekend, but in a loss, I don't think there's much more you can ask for in terms of what you did. Like, face-offs, we're probably going to give that up, but I mean, penalties were a lot lower, untimely, but lower overall. There was a really balanced offensive effort from guys like Crawford and Caputo, Malcolm, Knox. I mean, Goodwin, we had mentioned. So, there's still good things to glean from it. It's just, I think San Diego is quickly becoming one of those teams that Panther City fans hate to see Panther City lose to.
Right, yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's San Diego is going to be San Diego for until something changes or until more people retire. But it doesn't matter because when they retire, they come back to them anyway. But I will say this about face-offs. At what point do you start, I know you're not supposed to, but at what point do you start not going after the ball as much and maybe go after the person? Does that make sense?
No. I'd have to read up on the...
Because I feel like if you're going after the ball and you're losing every time, at some point you have to kind of like maybe be a split second slower, and then just be like, oh, well, now my stick's on top of your stick, and you can't get it out. So,
yeah, that's a good question. I know there was a great. I don't remember who the other guy was, but NLL had a video. It was Withers and.
Oh, from the Toronto game.
Yeah, it was either Withers or the Halifax face-off
Yeah,
specialist.
where they went off for like 5 minutes.
It seemed like it was at least a minute long and everything. And it was just it was like watching two sumo wrestlers that are so evenly
Right.
matched go at it. And so, it was seeing that and then comparing that to the kind of games that
To
we've
ours.
had. I don't know. That is a good question.
Yeah,
'Cause
I feel at some point you just have to make something happen.
Yeah. You don't want to just lose them like that. And that's not to say Burton and Push and whoever else is in the dot isn't trying. It's just a tall order, and it's definitely been a problem this year.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, as we end on this game, leave San Diego with a loss. That was on Friday night. Come back Sunday afternoon game, which I have started to enjoy a little bit more. I think that's been a good time to have a lacrosse game. But, we come back home. It's against Philadelphia, who we already faced earlier on the season. But a couple pregame notes going into this one. It was Origins of Lacrosse, game, which I've always enjoyed. I always thought that was really cool. It points out the origins of lacrosse and stickball and everything like that. So really cool to see that. But also, and I'm sorry I didn't write them down, but there were a few players out for this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Gauthier was back in action after sitting out against San Diego. Let's see. Puce didn't play because Burton's back healthy. Tony Malcolm came off the IR, and the new signing you mentioned, John Lentz, actually got some action with the team.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about him. So because you mentioned he had some action, but yeah. So going into the Sunday game, I was kind of hoping, hey, let's just get back on track. We beat them once, let's just do it again. Unfortunately, Philly was kind of feeling kind of strong in that first few minutes. They go up 1-0, and I was just thinking to myself, my gosh, don't let this be another Rochester game.
And it's funny, I got stuck in traffic, so I actually missed the first quarter. So I must have missed a lot of our struggles early on.
Well, yeah, I mean, Philadelphia, I mean, again, they have a lot of problems this year. In fact, the big thing, on like on the Lax magazines and stuff like that they're talking about is just the fact that like pretty much everybody in Philadelphia, fans wise, wants them to fire their coach. They want to just like tear everything down and start from scratch, and nothing's been made solid yet. I'm sure they're waiting until the off season to make those decisions, but they've had a lot of problems. They're honestly where Vancouver was this time last year.
Yeah, they're a pretty young team, right? Yeah, they're not much older than Panther City. This is I guess their fifth season. They've made the playoffs once. Never finished with a record above 500. I mean, and it is Philly.
It is Philly. That's for sure. As we joke, they boo Santa Claus, but anyway, so they went up 1-0, but Crawford again. I mean, we got a power play. He put us tied 1-1. Great goal by him again. I mean, it was so funny with that goal because it hit the goalie. It was one of those ones like it usually happens to Damude where it like hit him and then it just kind of bounces into the goal afterwards.
Yeah. That's we feel for Zach Higgins, but glad that it gave us some points.
But Philadelphia answered back. It was 2-1 at that point, but something must have clicked in that first quarter because they just were like, hey, let's kind of go on a scoring spree. They got things going offensively. Knox got his night started, which we'll talk about Knox, throughout this game, but great goal by him. Your boy, I mean, both of your boys, Tony Malcolm got a goal off the feed from Will. And then Medeiros, I mean, he was in transition and I was watching this and he slowed down enough. You could see him thinking like, oh, well, I should just pass it back. And then like something happened and he's just like, nope, I'm going to go ahead and shoot it. And he shot it and he scored. I'm just like, see, you can score. You can try to score on transitions. We're not going to hate you.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem like he's been as aggressive. So it's nice to see him get on the board. Who knows? Maybe he saw Tony get on the board right before him and be like, I want in on some of that.
I mean, yeah. And so, glad to see him get on the board. I think that's actually when you got there because
Yeah,
I think I
yeah.
told you, yeah, he just scored, and so both Tony and Medi, getting in some action in the first quarter, but I mean, quick first quarter. Honestly, we're up 4-2 going into the second. I was like, all right, well, this is the game that I wanted to see. I want to see you guys continue this. And so going into the second, I think you guys were there by then. But Crawford, again, another great corner goal by him, put us up even more. 5-2 at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there were like 2 penalties called on Philly in a row, and actually that was kind of a theme for them on the night. Penalty was called for as many penalties as Panther City has been called for on some of our worst nights. So yeah, nice to see Crawford take advantage of that. I'm pretty sure it was that goal that led to Crawford breaking the franchise record for power play goals in a single season.
Yeah,
13.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when they came on the PA for that, and I was just like, hey, well, with their power play, well, at least how it was, throughout the year, maybe not so much the last, 2 or 3 games, but it's good to see them, getting back and consistent on power plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Crawford, I think part of the reason we had that dip kind of mid-season was because Showtime wasn't playing. He missed a few games, nursing some injuries, so good to see us do well on that side.
Well, and at that point, we're up 5-2. I was like, good, let's keep this going. Unfortunately, we have a problem with not creating a lot of distance between these teams, and 2 straight goals by Philly, put them within striking distance at 5-4. I mean, why can't we put our distance between them?
I don't know what it is. In this case, I mean, we can scapegoat penalties somewhat. I know Pan was called for holding, which led to 4-on-4. I don't remember if that's what led to these power play goals, but like within the quarter, Pan, Lintz, and Sheridan all got called for penalties, and Philadelphia had 2 power play goals right after Crawford's. So, it's not what you'd like to see, and you don't want to underestimate any team. But I was thinking, like, come on, you can't make these mistakes against, Philly. I think at this point they were like 5-10, 5-11, pretty low in the standings. So, it wasn't great to see at that point in the game.
Well, and again, we've seen it too many times this year. But again, Panther City kind of proves me wrong. I mean, they go on a run of their own. I mean, Malcolm gets Will Malcolm. He shows up. Starts a run, he gets a goal. Knox, adding to his night, gets another goal. And then Donville, 3 goals in a row in the second quarter on a 3-0 run. Put us up 8-4. Malcolm has been consistent. Knox having a great night. And then Donville finally showing up on this one.
Yeah, Donville was really quiet in the San Diego game, so it was nice to see him get back on track. What's the song they play for him? Johnny Be Good.
Yeah, Johnny Be Good. Yeah.
They always play that when he scores, and who knows, maybe he likes Stolies and maybe he likes playing in Texas.
Right. He likes to hear his theme song. But on that 3-0 run, I was like, all right, good. We're going into halftime. We'll be up 8-4. Unfortunately, Philadelphia does get a score right before the halftime, 8-5, but up 3. This is what I wanted to see. This is what I wanted to see against Rochester. To be honest, let's be honest here. This is the type of game I was expecting against Rochester, where, hey, we're up on them, and we should definitely put this game away in the second half. But I'm glad to see it at least against Philadelphia.
Yeah, and it's good to see it, especially with this being the second game in a doubleheader. Like, after Rochester, I actually had the fear, like, oh gosh, is this how we're going to look against Philly, playing our second game in 3 days? And thankfully, certainly in the first half, that wasn't the case. People seemed engaged from top to bottom, whether it be the defense, Damute, or the offense. And we were winning some faceoffs too.
Right? Well, that's what you need. You almost need a game where you're going to play a little bit better. Like, not saying any team can obviously beat any team, but sometimes you need those teams where you can beat them, just kind of get things right. and I think that's kind of what they needed in that first half. But after halftime, Philadelphia usually we're the ones that make the adjustments and can keep things going into the third. Not this time. We couldn't keep the distance. Philadelphia goes on a 4-goal run, I believe. Was it 4 goals in a row or no?
4 goals sandwiched by one by Knox in between.
Yeah. So 2-2. Yes, Knox thankfully gets a goal in the third. That's a hat trick for him, which, again, great night by him. Thankfully, he was playing really good, but I don't know what happened to make Philadelphia kind of go on that run and why we were letting this team hang around.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know that Coach TK used to be pretty involved with Philly as their assistant and everything, so maybe they've got a little extra incentive to want to stick to him. Mitch Jones on Philly, Mitch Jones as well as Joe Resetarits, they're some of the leading point men in the league. So as much as Philadelphia is struggling this season, you know that they're able to score every now and then. One could argue that their offense is pretty solid, but defensively they have a lot of struggles. But yeah, in that third quarter, that was certainly their best of the game, just outscoring us 4-1 and tying things up at 9-9.
Well, and you guys were sitting right next to some Philly fans.
Oh gosh, yeah, right behind us. It was kind of funny. I was like, "Are y'all the only Philly fans in this arena?" He's like, "Yeah, that I know of."
Yeah, so, right.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure there was a few others, but maybe not as vocal. But I mean, we were up at 3 at the half, and then here we are again, tied going to the fourth. Another game where we should be up. We should have that lead, and it's another close game. And so honestly, at the end of the third, I'm having nightmares of San Diego all over again.
I was very fearful that, even though we're quote unquote the better team record wise than Philadelphia, I thought this being the second game of the weekend was going to be kind of the great equalizer. And so if Philly played harder and executed better, they had a real chance to win, which they did.
Yeah, and so, the fourth starts, a goal by Philadelphia. It gives them the first lead since the first quarter. And again, I'm like, hey, didn't this all happen Friday already? Like, can we not do this again? But yeah, I think at that point, after they let Philadelphia take the lead, things kind of calmed down for us. It was very back and forth. Our defense maybe was playing a little bit harder than they were in the third.
It is.
No goals for a while, but I mean, there were some bad passes by both teams. I mean, Philadelphia for sure. They had a lot of just really bad passes. In fact, one of them ended up in the stands or in the bench.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one. Was it a shot or a pass? I don't remember. I remember seeing a ricochet behind Jamie's net to like the stage area. It was like the furthest side seeing the ball bounce at Dickies Arena.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. It's just they weren't getting good shots off, bad passes, bad turnovers. Same with us. Like we were, nothing was really going in. We weren't playing like really bad or anything. It just nothing was really working in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that was pretty much halfway through the fourth, and then finally, Knox, just having himself a night, man. He gets a goal, ties us back up. I mean, 4 goals from the rookie on the night. Good for him.
Yeah, and he took advantage of what San Diego took advantage of against us. This fortuitous penalties and costly mistakes by the other team at critical moments in the game.
Well, and that's honestly, like, I think, obviously they talked about after the game, and we'll hear from Coach TK and Knox after the game too, with their after-game interviews. But, that was the power play, taking advantage of power plays. That was something we were kind of missing for a while there. And so to see them at least take advantage of some of them in this game, kind of a relief, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely good to see us take advantage of their mistakes. And not just that, but they were utilizing Knox in a different way in the power play. They had him play up top, which is usually where you're used to seeing Donville or Showtime, Malcolm now and then. So Knox is, even though he was new to it, he's the perfect kind of player to have playing that role just because of the power he puts behind his shots. And so you have that plus one less defender on the floor. Good things are going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that tied us back up. And then I think this man has what do they call it? A theme for theatrics, or what's the right word I'm looking for? a knack for theatrics.
Mm-hmm. A flair for the theatrical or something.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, he's like, hey, we're tied or we're in overtime or the game's about to be over. I guess I'll get a good goal. Donville, great pass to him, but then I was sitting next to you guys for this one. He faked it just enough to like offset the goalie, and he gets it past his shoulder. Great goal from him. Put us up 11-10 at that point.
Yeah, that was a great one. And I think, Higgins, we'll go into it later, but he had a really good night. The one spot where it seemed like we could consistently score on him throughout was his stick side shoulder, like right above it. I feel like I saw 2 or 3 goals where the ball just kind of like dinked off of it and luckily caught the net. And, Donville's shot was no different, real pretty. He was really pumped about it. Obviously, it's great to see us go ahead with just over 2.5 minutes left. So, yeah, great to see him.
Well, and at that point, Philadelphia pulled their goalie, was trying to get something going. Thankfully, we were able to hold them down and hold them back. And then Patton gets a turnover, gets a, I mean, he's 3/4 of the way down the field, but he throws it down, gets an empty netter. That put us up 12-10. At that point, there wasn't a whole lot of time left. So, I hated that it was a close game, but I'm glad we won. The final there, 12-10.
Yeah, it's definitely one that we wanted to have. Did not want to go 0-2 at this critical juncture of the season. So the San Diego loss stung, but this helped take this thing off of it a little bit, especially in front of the home crowd. And I had friends, a couple of people I brought there that this was their first time to a lacrosse game. And I was explaining
I was gonna
rules.
say, you're exposing a ton of people to this game.
Yeah. So doing my part to educate and whatnot. And so yeah, it was really really cool to see them enjoy it. And just I think Crawford. I don't know that he scored on any of his like leaping shot attempts, but each time he did that, like my buddy's eyes would light up, like whoa, he's going airborne, that kind of thing. It's like that's his nickname, Showtime.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of his trick shot, But yeah, I mean, again, we'll talk about our final thoughts here in a bit. But just a good win, and a win that we needed. I think you mentioned it right, though. It does make that loss in San Diego kind of sting a little bit more, just because, again, I feel like we could have had it. But well, obviously another close game by us, but a win by us. These two, some great stats. I mean, Mr. Andrew, what stats do you have for this game against Philadelphia?
First off, face-offs. There were 27 face-off opportunities, just like there were in the game against San Diego. Again, Trevor Baptiste on 25 of 27 of those, and we didn't mention this earlier, but he was named the NLL Player of the Week. I don't know the last time I saw a face-off specialist named Player of the Week. And, he had 2 goals to boot in the fourth quarter, too. So, thankfully, we weren't facing him this week. Tyler Burton managed to go 16 of 27, so over 50% on our face-offs. Let's see. He was up against Rowlett on Philly, and so good to see us be successful in that avenue. I think, it was only a 2-goal game, but like we mentioned before, every possession helps, every possession matters. Both goalies, both Damude and Higgins, played pretty well. Nick Damude, he saved 43 out of 53 shots for above 80%. He was just above 81%. Higgins, meanwhile, I remember, I think I turned to you at one point and I was like, man, we are really beating up the goalie, right. Getting a ton of shots on him. And, he, even though they lost, he made a lot of great saves. He saved 54 out of 65 shots for 83%, so even higher than game used. So hats off to both goalies for playing as well as they did. Maybe even more so than the faceoffs. I really liked seeing how well we did on the power play. We mentioned that Philadelphia had a lot of penalties. Well, we got 10 power play opportunities out of that and converted on 6 of them for 60%. It was a mix of guys, Showtime, Knox, Donville. And so great to see them do well. And I don't remember the last time, I don't know that we've had that many opportunities, that many power play opportunities. Philadelphia, they did have 24 penalty minutes, so I'm sure that contributed to that. We did have more loosies than them as well, 68 to their 58. So it's good to see us be aggressive, get into the ball and everything. And Sheridan had a pretty quiet game, but he's another guy. I just mentioned how it seems like he's always in the mix of things, trying to muck things up. So it's great to see that his energy is contagious and really feeds off other guys. We mentioned
quick note on Sheridan. I will say he did get a penalty in this game for literally just like running into him into the boards.
Yeah, and it's funny because after that, Philadelphia didn't take too kindly to that, and then Lentz came and kind of like was backing up his new teammate, and both of them got sent to the sin bin.
Right. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. We mentioned Crawford breaking. I think it was it Caputo's record? Whoever.
I want to say, yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Crawford, yeah. I want to say it was Caputo whose record he passed as far as setting the most power play goals in a season. Because, that's such an integral part of Caputo's success. Probably because he plays so close to the net and is so active. So hats off to Cal for breaking that record. I'm sure it's one of many records he's going to hold or have by the time he's done with the game. And Jason Knox, man, what a career night he had. 4 goals, 4 assists for 8 points, 6 loosies on top of that. He really took advantage of being the guy up top in the power play, as we alluded to. So really good to see that. And yeah, this was a very shot-happy game. Like we mentioned, the 65 shots on goal. Showtime had 20 of them. Knox had 17 of them. Will Malcolm had 10. But just 3 guys hitting double digits. And not just double digits, but pretty high numbers for Knox and Crawford. It showed a great level of aggression on that side of the ball.
Well, and I think you touched on it, obviously, with the penalties. I will say if there was one big difference maker in this game, it was us taking advantage of the penalties and taking advantage of the opportunities with those power plays. Because as your Philadelphia fans mentioned kind of behind us, towards the end of the game, they're like, hey, just call another penalty. Just call another penalty. and obviously, yes, the penalty would be great because then we could get another power play. But I feel like most of the time, NLL refs, I mean, they call it pretty even with like, hey, if there's a penalty that might not have been a penalty on one side, most of the time you're going to get it on the other side
right.
as well. But it's just taking advantage of those. San Diego is really good at taking advantage of penalties. We, against Philadelphia, we're really good about taking advantage of penalties. And so, honestly, I feel like those can be a huge difference maker. But, of course, that's Mr. Andrews' stats of the game. Leads us into our cool cat plays of the game. Look, again, there's plenty I could choose from. I gotta go with Donville. That when we're tied 10-10, and he can just that quick fake on the goalie, just to be like, okay, as a player, he's thinking to himself. Once he does that fake, he's thinking to himself, oh yeah, I got him. I got him just right where I want him to be. And getting that ball into that net, putting us up 11-10 with a few minutes left. Like I said, a knack for the theatrics, I guess. But he knows if the game is on the line, I feel like that's who you want to start shooting. I will say, I mean, I'll take Malcolm or Crawford, but it seems like Donville has had those opportunities more than not. That's my cool cat play of the game. What about for you?
I'm gonna give it to the same play you did, Donville's game go ahead goal, but I will do it with an asterisk. I got to see that one. I did not get to see my man Medi score a shorthanded goal in transition. Once I watched the replay of that, something tells me that Donville's go ahead score is just kind of keeping things warm, because you know me, I love seeing Medi get on the board.
Well, between that and and Tony getting on the board at within minutes of each other.
Yeah, shoot. If only I had gotten into the arena like 5 minutes earlier. But yeah. So Donville, I've loved seeing how much his game has grown this season. He was already really good his rookie year, obviously won the Rookie of the Year, but just seeing his offensive versatility and how he's really I mean, it's like Crawford in the sense that you have to watch out for his vision, finding other guys. You have to watch out for his own scoring ability, because I think that's how he ends up getting a lot of these goals, is that people expect him to be more of a playmaker, because you've got weapons like Will Malcolm and Crawford and Caputo, and now guys like Knox really emerging. But so for him to be able to still kind of shine his own light and put a stamp on the game and lead us to a win, it's great to see.
Yeah. Well, and yeah. I mean, I hope you do get to see the replay, because those goals were pretty good. Well, that's of course our cool cat plays of the game. Leads us into our big cat player of the game for this one against Philadelphia. Again, it's kind of an easy choice for me. There is one guy who showed up, and there's a reason he was selected the NLL Rookie of this week, and that's of course Jason Knox. I mean, what, four goals? I mean, did he have any assists in this game? I can't remember.
Yeah. He had 8 points total. So
8 points total.
Yeah.
Just a record night for him. And sure, I mean, Rookie of the Year might already be locked up by somebody else, but he has ended up having a really good rookie season. It just seems like there's a distinct difference between the first half of the year with him and the second half. It's like all that knowledge he's soaking up and all that experience, it's paying dividends towards the end of the year. But that's my player of the game. What about for you?
Ditto.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. Knox really, other guys like Donville and Showtime and whatnot were solid as usual. Knox really, I'm not going to say he needed this game, but it was good to see him play so strong. And again, we talked about how that power play, that's kind of a new position for him, playing up top, and he did it with, he passed the test of flying colors. Yeah, we've talked about how him and Sheridan seem to kind of swap, not necessarily good games, but like statistically good games. And so this time was Knox's time to shine. He just took advantage. He used the size and his ability, not just as a shooter, but as a playmaker. I'm pretty sure that those 4 assists are career high for him as well in his rookie year. So awesome to see him play as well as he did. So hopefully that means good things to come.
Well, hats off to the rookie for this week, and a little Rookie of the Week. That's of course our big cat player of the game. Well, after that Philadelphia game, we actually did get a chance to interview both Coach TK and Jason Knox after his big game. Here's what Coach TK had to say after the game.
Coach, the power play was much improved tonight. You went 6 of 10 for half your goals, even more of that if you include some of the special teams plays that happened. Is that a point of emphasis going into tonight after San Diego and just the past few games as of late?
A little bit. We had a completely different look when we put Noxie up top. I don't think we've utilized him very well on the power play, in particular the last couple games. So he shoots the ball real well, and obviously showed that tonight. And it just gives us a completely different look. So a little less play oriented. It was really just manufacture some good shots on it, and thankfully it worked.
Okay. Awesome. And the team also signed John Lentz right before Friday's game. Obviously brings a boatload of champion experience. With it being this late in the season, what did you see out of him today, and how do you envision him fitting into y'all's defensive game plan with 2 games left?
Unfortunately, he didn't get to play the second half. He tweaked I think his hamstring or something, so lower body. But Uh, I love Lindsay's game. I've always liked his game. He's a hard-nosed player, but again, experience is the key reason why we brought him in. Uh, so many one-goal games in this league. It never hurts to have a guy at the back that just does things consistently well. And he's a natural-born leader. So, he's a familiar face to I think a lot of our guys on our team. They've played together in summer ball as well. So it wasn't like we were inserting somebody that was, didn't know anybody. So it just made a lot of sense.
Thanks, Coach.
For Jason Knox, what can you say about his development throughout the entire year?
I don't know if it's a development thing as much as it is. It's not a confidence thing either. It's him starting to understand how good he can be. So to that, I think it speaks volumes. Like I'm proud of him the way he played tonight. Obviously, we picked him at 5. I would have probably picked him at 3. And maybe even with the first overall pick because I think he's that good. So he's a guy that just needs to understand that, again, if you can shoot the ball the way he does, he picked up actually 7 loose balls tonight too, which was real good. I challenged him before the game to just play harder and not just kind of loaf around it there. Not that he's been loafing around, but again, his progression is good. He's always been a skilled player. I've coached him since he's been 12 years old. But it's really about a mindset for him and just, again, being a pro. I'm only hoping that tonight sparks out a little bit and he can go on a bit of a run here.
With Jonathan Donovan, the last home game, he gets the overtime winner. This game, he gets the other game winner. What can you say about him in this clutch game?
He's just reliable, and he's reliable, and I think in times at critical times, he probably plays his best ball because he's not thinking as much. He just wants to go do. And that we've had conversations with him about, he's a pro. He prepares almost to a fault too much. When he goes out and just plays, he's at his best, and I think that's proof in the pudding when the game's on the line. He just goes and does it. Because he's not thinking as much, he's just going to play and wanting to carry the group, which is again why we got him on first overall in the draft. So his resume speaks for itself, and I'm glad that he was able to get that tonight for us.
Next game is against Albany. What's the message going for the team?
Our message really is not that it's shifted. We have to get back to just worrying about us and being more efficient in every aspect of our games. That's how you get into the playoffs, and that's how you go far a long way in playoffs is by doing the little things very well and understanding that the little things are utmost priority. Key to it is we're gonna obviously look at their roster and scout them, but it really boils down to us being more efficient and worrying about us and cleaning up the things that we need to clean up, which to a man I thought we did really well tonight. But we worked hard. And I give that team a whole lot of credit as well because I know they laid it on the line for their coach. And I've been in that locker room. I know he's the leader and the guys respect him. And they worked extremely hard. We were able to match that after playing 2 games this weekend. It's really a credit to our guys as well.
I mean, Coach TK, anytime he talks, I mean, he talks about the team as a whole and just the ability to correct mistakes and keep working on things. And I think that obviously after a win, he's a little bit in better moods, but no, it was good to see him after the win on Philadelphia. I mean, anything you want to add on his interview after that?
Yeah, I think it's something that obviously the team needed it, but as a coach, that really helps your confidence in your guys as well. And he saw adjustments that the team made that worked out for them, like with the Knox, moving him up in the power play positioning where he's playing through. So yeah, he's always a great guy to be able to speak with after games, and even more so if the team did well.
Right. Well, we also got to talk to Jason Knox on his big night. Here's what he had to say after the game.
Yeah. This game's
After a
fun.
game like that.
Sorry. I'll leave that there.
Okay, Jason. Coach TK just mentioned that they were featuring you more on the power play up top. Looked like it paid great dividends as we went 6 of 10. You had 3 goals and an assist out of that. How was it making that adjustment, and do you see that as part of y'all's gameplay going forward? Do you feel comfortable in that spot?
Yeah, it's definitely a comfortable thing that I got to get used to. Like you just said, it's a little bit of a change, but it's more the flow of the offense and what's working, what's not working, and the adaptability to be able to go back and forth. And I like playing up top. It's a lot of fun. You can see the floor a little bit better, but it's just part of our game plan.
It seems like during the course season, you only seem to get better. Is that more just of a confidence thing, or just trying your comfort?
I think it's a comfort thing. Just playing with it's a different speed coming from college into box lacrosse, especially professional box lacrosse. But the guys do a great job of making me feel at home and getting my confidence up and my comfort level up for sure.
Zach Higgins had 55 saves today. It was kind of hard trying to get a couple of goals past him. I know you had 4, but as a team.
Yeah, he's a good goalie. He's really big. He flares out a lot, so it's tough. You got to get him moving side to side on swings, and then just finding a spot and placing it is a big thing with him. But.
And then Jonathan Donville, game-winning goal again. What can you say about him?
Yeah, Donnie's he's an incredible lacrosse player. His game sense is unmatched. He can shoot the ball like anybody else. His playmaking is probably his most undervalued aspect just because of how well he can score the ball, but he's a really, really good playmaker, and he's a big part of our offense.
Okay, because I have one more. Because it's your rookie season, you've got to play with the team for a little bit, but also you do have what you consider a legend in Calvin Crawford. Just getting to learn off of him, how does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's amazing. When you can find anybody in the game that's as smart as Callum and has been around for as long as Callum, you want to just soak up as much information as possible. He's an unbelievable player. It's kind of, we joke around, it's just like how he's still able to do the things that he does. It's remarkable. But yeah, he's a great guy too. Great in the locker room. He's got his kids around all the time. It's a lot of fun hanging out with him.
I mean, I think this is the first time we had gotten to talk to Knox after a game, and so I mean, at least that I've been to, and talking about it, a big night from him. I mean, all goals and assists wise, just a great showing by the rookie, and he just, I feel like, the Panther City podcast, they kind of touched on it when they were asking him questions. He seems to be soaking in all that information from the Malcolm brothers to Crawford to Coach TK, and it's just helped grow his game throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Having those, not just, I mean, it's funny calling Malcolm a veteran, but having guys like Crawford and then guys that aren't too old themselves, like Donville and Malcolm, being able to learn next to them, and then his rookie partner in crime in Sheridan. It's real nice to see the camaraderie between those guys on and off the field.
Well, and I didn't know about this until this week, but I guess Knox and Sheridan are actually roommates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they're obviously learning from each other as the season goes on. But great to hear from both of them after this game. Final thoughts on this game? I'll let you go first. I mean, obviously being there live, seeing it. What were your thoughts about our game against Philadelphia overall?
I'm mainly glad that we won. I was pretty confident that we were going to, but again, after that Rochester doubleheader, San Diego was the first game of that doubleheader as well, and losing in overtime and thinking like, okay, we're going to take things out on Rochester. That didn't happen. and so, yeah, I'm glad that Philly, we were able to take care of business, get things done. They're a team that I don't think that we've lost. We probably haven't played them a whole lot because of the way standings were before with the divisions, but I'm pretty sure they've never beaten us. So it's good to know that we're still able to be competitive in both games of the doubleheader.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, again, as much as I wish we would have got both games, I mean, getting this one was very important, especially after that loss on Friday. But no, I just, it's another just facts about this team, and that kind of does lead me into my next question, talking about just the overall thoughts on the weekend. Uh, these games are it's almost like a perfect snapshot of the Panther City season. Really good, hard fought game, but mistakes and penalties and just stupid little things end up costing us. And then we come back at another game we should be way ahead in, but we keep it close, and then we do find a way to win in the end. It just seems like that's been happening a lot this year. And it really made me think, and I thought about this a couple days ago. To me, this team just, it doesn't really have an identity. And what I mean by that is there's not one singular thing you can hang your hat on and say, this has been consistent all year. And you can look at certain players, maybe Crawford, obviously, Malcolm, great consistent players, but I'm talking about the overall team. You can't say this is a defensive-led team because they have had some good games where they played good defense, but then they've had games where the defense doesn't even show up, or they show up late, or they show up for half the game. You can't say this is a very offensive-led team because, we have games where we do this, where we score 12 and offense looks decent, or we have a big game against Vegas early on, and then we have other games where it's stagnant for 3 quarters. So and it sucks because we're in the last 2 weeks of the season, and there's not something that they can just say, this is who we are. And so I hope that's something they can figure out coming up in the next few weeks. But if I was to say my overall thoughts on the weekend were a perfect snapshot of the Panther season as a whole. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to add?
I mean, I'd agree with that. And, I don't think this is unique to us. I think it's a lot of younger teams, maybe not even younger, maybe rebuilding, or teams that have been around for a while that tend to not really have an identity. I think one difference is that our record, we're pretty fortunate that our record is what it is, despite not really having something to hang our hat on. Because, we just played Philly. Philly's not really necessarily known for anything right now. They're 5-11. We're 8-8, and other teams that are around that area or higher than us, take Buffalo for example. I mean, they got Dane Smith, Josh Burton. Okay, they're offensively set, and then they've got one of the best goalies in league history in Matt Vince. The Riptide, who we beat earlier this year in New York, future Ottawa Brown Bears.
Right.
Yeah, they got the same record as us. But you can immediately point to that is like Jeff Teat doing
offense.
Yeah. Yeah, and God, teams like Toronto, you're like, okay, their defense is really good. Nick Rose is an MVP candidate in the net. And then they've got Mark Matthews getting things done offensively as well. And that's probably why got teams like that and San Diego so far are elite, because you're like, God, they're like stacked on offense with Stotts and Berg and Dobie and whatever. And then, God, they've got like Dixon and in a Wrigley area, and then got Baptiste and whatnot. And then bit of foreshadowing. I mean, Albany, you look at their success this year, it's like, oh, Alex Simmons, Ty Kurtz, Ethan Walker. They've got these young pups that are doing really well. And with Panther City, as fans, we're probably a little biased. Like, oh yeah, Showtime and Will Malcolm and Jonathan Donville, they're awesome. But as far as having that distinct identity, like you said, Nick Damude's a great goalie, and then there are some weeks where he looks pretty mortal. Yeah. Even Showtime and Donville and our offensive players have some truly amazing games, record-setting games, and then they might not score a single goal the next night out. And so it's just consistency is always going to be a big thing with us. And, obviously injuries kind of play into that. But, yeah, I'd agree with you in that we're still a bit too much of a Jekyll and Hyde team to really be considered in that upper echelon with Toronto and San Diego and whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I hope that's something they can figure out in the last few weeks because, as we said last year, once the playoffs start, I mean, there's no turning back. So, well, we leave these games, obviously 1-1. Like you said, unfortunately, we were kind of hoping to be above 500 coming out of the weekend, but sticking at 500 considering all the things around us. But we do look ahead to this weekend's game against Albany, final home game. Couple things talking about just overall. It's their last home game as they did the last few years. It's a whiteout theme, so make sure to bring out your white shirts or white jerseys or whatever. But also, I mean, kind of talk about what's at stake. I mean, I would say these last two games are both must win. Now, obviously, we could lose one and win one and still be okay, but you're leaving it in the hands of chance at that point. And so, Albany, I mean, they have, let's see where they're at. They are the 3 spot right now, 10-6. The only thing that could happen with them, if they win, they're still in 3rd. If they lose, they're tied with Georgia, which means, I mean, I think Georgia actually, Georgia I think has the advantage against them, so they would go up. So it's either a win and don't move, or a loss and maybe possibly move down to 4th. But they have their playoff spot locked down. They are in the playoffs no matter what. But it's like, what's at stake for us? We need this win. I know this isn't the same Albany team from last year that we took care of handily, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be able to. I don't know. I feel like we should be able to win, but man, I don't know. I'll let you. Yeah, what's your opinion on it?
Well, I mean, that rookie in Albany right now, Alex Simmons, he's presumptive rookie of the year. So, no disrespect to Knox or Sheridan or any of our guys, but he really turned that team around this year. No one had Albany predicted to be a playoff team. They thought, they'll be all right. They're going to be too young to really do much damage. And to be fair, they have fallen off as of late. I think they've lost at least 2 straight, if not more.
I think it's like 3 of their last 4 they lost, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in that sense, they're faltering a little bit. But for us, we're in the 7th spot right now. We really have to. This game, all things considered, means a lot more to Panther City than to Albany, because things are still mucked up where we are. We're right above the Riptide. I think that's really just because of the tiebreaker at this point. We're both 8-8. We're just under Halifax. Halifax has a tiebreaker against us, but if they lose their last couple games, who knows? We could flip-flop. Calgary is on our heels, and Calgary, that game, the season finale is going to be really important, depending how things shake out with them against Buffalo this weekend. It's crazy seeing that. Maybe not so much this weekend compared to the one where we play our last game, but these matchups could really shake things up a lot. So I'm glad that we're playing Albany at home. And, what was it? It being Whiteout Night, Fan Appreciation Night, or a little a get-together that we're doing beforehand. It'll definitely be good for the team to have a great showing and be competitive and whatnot. I am curious about, the same way that I was curious about Dane Smith and Josh Byrne, seeing them up close. I have that same curiosity about these young Albany guys. Of course, Simmons, it seemed like for a while he was winning Rookie of the Week every single week when the season started. Right. And, Ty Kurtz, Ethan Walker, I think they're all in the top 15 or top 20 of point guys this season. So, it'll be interesting to see how we're going to do against a young team that started off hot and has cooled off as of late. Because in that sense, I think their record is a little bit deceiving. Like, yeah, they're a number 3 seed, but at one point they were number 1, and I think only Toronto was really keeping pace with them at that point. So, really.
Well, and I will say this with Albany. I mean, it's one of those things that, hey, you've been here before. They've never been here before. They've never been, top of the standings before or anything like that, or top 3, top 4 team. And so, yeah, it's new territory for them. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, in that sense, I think we need this more than they do. Obviously, there's more at stake for us. For one, we haven't clinched our spot yet. 2, we'll face anyone who's in front of us. But if you can avoid those lower seeds that would face you up against Toronto or San Diego, I think that would be for the better. So if we can somehow leapfrog Halifax, heck, if we somehow manage to tie Buffalo, we would leapfrog them. That essentially, we'd have to win out, and Buffalo would have to at least lose one of their next 2 games, if not both of them. It's just...
It's crowded.
yeah. It's very crowded for sure. So, hopefully they have a good showing. Hopefully it's a good game, and it's nice. It'd be nice for the fans to see it too. And especially, what was the last year? I think the fan appreciation game was against Calgary, who we didn't beat in that game. Mm-hmm. And then all the players had to stick around and sign stuff. I'd like to see how their mood is after a win.
That's the thing. So the last home game, the last 2 seasons, we've lost.
Mm-hmm.
Can we change it this year? Can we switch things around and say, hey, let's get this win towards the end of the year? Look, yes, everything you said, ditto. I mean, we need this. If we're going to stand a chance in trying to get the playoff spot, and again, we might lose it and we might still make it in, but it's going to be very hard. So going into this, win or loss, look, I'll be the forever optimist for your sake on this one, because we need it. I'm going to say a win. Look, even though they have a player who's near and dear to my heart, Mr. Nathan Grinnan, and him coming back into town, I will be glad to see him again. I hope that we can. I just hope it's not another close game, but I'm afraid it's going to be a close game. So I'm going to say we win. I'm going to say it's going to be 13-12.
Okay. Let's see. Albany lost, I think 10-7 to Toronto this past week, so that they didn't even hit double digits, which is pretty rare for them. I think against us they will get to double digits, but we are going to score a teensy bit more than them. So let's go with a Panther City win at home in front of our fans during Whiteout Fan Appreciation Night, 13-11.
13. So they both of us have Panther City scoring 13. Let's hope the offense can do it. I mean, it sounds like 13's the lucky number. But yes, obviously we hope for a win this weekend. I mean, you kind of already touched on it. I do want to take a quick moment to talk about the playoff standings. We are in 7th place right now. We're tied with who? New York?
New York? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have the tiebreaker. But yeah, essentially we're tied for that spot.
Who does New York go against this weekend? Let's see.
They have a bye week from the looks of it. Vancouver.
Okay, here's where things get interesting. Vancouver is actually on the up. We joked about them early on in the season, like, oh, their coaching change, getting what's his name isn't really paying off for them. They're 5-1 in the last 6 games, and
they're like Georgia this last season.
They are making a run. They're 7-9. If they can win this weekend, and then I think win next weekend, then they're going to be fighting for that 8th spot.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if we win both weekends, we'll already have either the 6th or the 7th spot locked up. But man, talk about a turnaround. Vancouver, starting out the season not very good, but kind of, back and forth, and then going on this run right now. Hats off to them, but I really, I don't know. I feel like spots to 4. I feel like Buffalo's going to find a way in. They always,
Yeah.
Colorado's pretty much out of it. I mean, technically, I think if enough teams lose at the same time, because Las Vegas is the only one that's quote unquote eliminated with 2 weeks to go.
Yeah, I don't think Colorado can, because we own the tiebreaker. I don't think there's a way. There's not a way that they can pass us up, even if we lose these last 2.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like A, we obviously need 2 wins, and B, that last weekend against Calgary, gosh dang, that's gonna be. I feel like that's gonna be winner gets in.
Yeah.
Because Calgary, I think, is gonna get a win this weekend. That puts them at 8-9, and that'll put us at like 9-8. So, man, ooh, I don't know.
I mean, it does go to show you how important having a real solid coach is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the man has made a difference, and I know a lot of people said negative things early on in the season, like, oh, they're not turning around the team fast enough, they're not making enough moves, or what that. Just give it time, man. Like the man was a legend in Calgary for a reason. And so for him to go to Vancouver and start over and try something new, I mean, it seems to be working. So I think they're going to be a team to look out for next year. And then also I just want to take a quick moment and talk about, Sunday's game. Obviously, like you mentioned, we are going to try to have a tailgate party from 1 to 3. Get a group march up to the game at 3:15. That way we can get a good group up there, going into Dickies Arena. Hopefully not for the last time. But I feel like I really wanted to make sure that Panther City knew that, there are people out there who still don't know them and can get excited about them. I mentioned this early on in the year. They deserve so much more. This team deserves to have. I mean, I just got a notification, a couple hours ago on Instagram about Buffalo. They're selling out their final home game. I mean, that place is a sellout, and I think Panther City deserves that. That team, for as much as close a games as exciting of a games as they've had this year, they deserve that just as much as any other team. And so I just want them to know, like, hey, you have fans, that care about you and want to see you, if not stay there, stay in the area. And I know there's a lot of things that are a lot of rumors and a lot of just like uncertainty kind of going into the off season, and we'll obviously talk about that over the summer. But I just wanted to have a good time for the last home game this year. But anyway, tailgate party 1 to 3. I'm inviting as many people as I can. I mean, I know you'll be out there. Are you bringing anybody with you?
It might depend on how the week shakes out. Unfortunately, I think my buddies that went to the previous ones had prior engagements, but yeah, we'll see who I can muster up.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to have a good time. I want everybody just to enjoy a Panther City game, and who knows, they might end up liking it more and wanting to go out to more games. But final home game this weekend. Can't wait to see it. As we gear up for that final home game, we do look forward to the playoffs coming up. Hope to get even closer, hopefully securing our spot for a chance at the title. And hopefully we can get that sooner rather than later. But thank you all for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and check out our videos on YouTube. I am once again Nicholas.
And I am once again Andy.
And we'll see you next time.
Sweet. Cheers, y'all.